In this recorded tutorial, we're going to create a title block that you can use in your layout drawings. Once we've drawn it, we're going to turn it into a dynamic block with attribute definitions for the text entries and a dynamic border. It will also have a wipeout and an image inserted. Okay, so let's get going. So I've launched AutoCAD and we've got a new drawing. So the first thing we need to do is come to the Layer Properties window and create a new layer, and we're going to call that title block. We're going to make sure that is the current layer by clicking on the icon with the green tick, and then we can close down the Layer Properties Manager and start drawing. So we're going to pick up the rectangle tool, and we need to create a rectangle with the dimensions of 1000 wide by 255 millimeters high, like that. And then we can offset that to create a border by 5 millimeters inside the first rectangle. I'm then going to select both of those rectangles and explode them back into lines. Okay, and we can now start drawing the inside. Now I can see that I've got quite a few rows here that are 35 millimeters tall, so we're going to draw those in across the whole drawing and then we can trim them out later. So I'm going to hover over the top left hand corner on the inside and measure down by dragging, making sure I've got the black cross that it's tracking, and typing in 35 like so, and pull across and we can click. I can then offset the rest of these, so we can type in 35 millimeters, offset, and at this point press the down arrow and go to multiple, and we can then just keep on clicking to put those in and press enter. Okay, that's great. Now we need some vertical lines, so we're going to pick up the line tool and we're going to hover over the bottom right hand corner on the inside border, and I can see the first one is 212 in. So we type in 212, press enter. That's now drawing 212 away from where we started, and I can see that goes up the first two rows from the bottom. Press spacebar to end and spacebar again to start the line tool. So we can see that we're 420 from this corner. So we're going to hover, wait a beat, pull across and type in 420. And this one goes up almost to the top, to there. Then we are 45 millimeters away from here. So we need to pull across, type in 45. And this one goes up to there. And then the next one is 215 from this one, so just pull across 215. This one goes up to the same position. The next one is 55 to there. I'm just pressing spacebar to end, spacebar to begin. Next one is 45, and this one goes all the way up to the top like that. And I can also see that I've got one here that is from this position going across 200, just up the first row there. Okay, great, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so we can start to trim now. So we're going to click on trim. And remember, the first click is a right click anywhere on a piece of empty white space in the model. And then we can start to trim out multiple lines. So I don't need any of those because that's where the image is going to go. I can see I don't need that one, or that one, or this one, or indeed that one. And these are actually going to be a different spacing. So I don't need any of those, like that. And yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so then we need to draw in, oh, we don't need these either. Now I can't trim those out because there's nowhere for it to trim back to. So at this point I need to press down and go to erase, and now that will allow me to erase them. Press enter. Marvellous. Okay, so now what we need to do is just draw back in these other rows that are of a different spacing. So I'm going to go line tool, come up to this point, hover, pull down. I can see that this one should be 40 millimeters to there, and then all the rest are 20 across to there like this. And I'll use the offset tool, set at 20, just to offset all the others. Like this. Marvellous. Okay, we're ready for some text. So we're going to make a text style, and this is going to be called Arial 8. So we're going to click New, Arial 8, click OK. It's not going to be annotative, so all we need to do is make sure that we're on Arial and set the height to 8. Click Apply. We can see that this is already current, so this is the one we're going to be using now. So we can click Close and then pick up the multi-line text tool, and let's just draw a text box in here somewhere. Marvellous. Okay, this is going to be called Drawing Title, and we're just going to close this down just slightly and click Close Text Editor. Now we need to make sure that this text is centered in this row somewhere. So the best way to do that is to select it and go right click Move. Now you can see there's no snap points on text, unfortunately. So we've got to sort of manufacture some. Hold down the Control key and do a right click, and then we're going to go to mid between 2 points. This little tool, it will allow us to do 2 clicks and it will find the distance, the mid distance between them. So we're going to click somewhere on the top of the D, somewhere at the bottom of the D, and then that's going to pick that up, the mid distance between those 2 clicks, and then we need to do the same to put it down in the center of this row. So we're going to go Control, right click, mid between 2 points, and pick the top of the row and the bottom of the row, and then that's placed it in the center. We then need to move it in, and there's no set distance for this, so we're just going to move it straight somewhere away from the edge so it looks kind of nice. Okay, now we've got the first one done then, we can now copy selection with a base point as the bottom of the row, and now we can just start to put these in where we need them. So we need one here, 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 in all of these ones, like so. We need one there and one here. And then we're done. We can press escape and we can just change the text in these by double clicking on them and typing it in. Okay, I'm just going to speed this up then whilst I do this. Okay, so now I just need to copy and put the text into the amendments fields. Okay, so that's all the text entries in. So now we're ready to create a wipeout. So we're going to go to the wipeout tool, which lives on the draw drop-down panel, and it's this one here, wipeout. We're going to click on there, and we're just going to now create a wipeout by drawing around the border, like so, and press enter when we're done. Now the wipeout is sitting on top, so we just need to select that wipeout and just go to draw order, center back. We can now actually delete the original 4 lines here, and we're just left with the border of the wipeout. And we're just going to change the outside border to be 0.5 millimeters. So we're going to come down here like so. We can't see any change yet, but if we come down to the status bar icon and switch on the show hide line weights, we can start to see that that looks quite good. Okay, we're done. The next thing we need to do is turn this into a block. So we're going to select everything, and then we're going to go to Insert and Create Block. We're going to call this Title Block. And we need to specify the base point. So we're going to click on Pick Point, and we normally put the title block in the bottom right hand corner of our layouts. So it kind of makes sense for the base point to be at the bottom right hand corner. This is where we're going to have the cursor attached when we come to insert it into our drawings later on. So we're just going to do one click there, and now you can see that's set the X and Y coordinates for the bottom right hand corner. Then we can choose to delete the title block when we turn it into a block, and we can also open it up in the block editor so we can continue working on it. That looks good. Click OK. That one disappears and it's now opened up in the block editor. You can see that we're in the block editor because we have a grey background and we have the block editor tab for the ribbon menu. And you can see that it's put the UCS in the bottom right hand corner, and that's exactly where the base point is. So we're now ready to create some attribute definitions, and these are basically text boxes that we can fill in at the point of insertion later on with all the different bits of data like the production, the director's name, the designer, etc. So it's all there ready to go when we use it. And the tool we use for that is the attribute definition manager. So we're going to click on there and we get this dialog box appear. Now you can see on the left hand side we have some modes, and we're going to use a few of these, so you'll see what they do. But basically what we need to make sure is ticked is verify. It's going to ask us at the point of insertion for some text entry. We're going to make sure that it's on lock position so that we can't move the actual text once it's in. And we need to give it 3 pieces of text here. We need to give it a tag, which is basically AutoCAD's way of referencing the text. So it's a bit like a data entry. So we can't put spaces in there. So if we want to put a space, we have to use an underscore. The next one is a prompt. And this is basically when we come to insert it, we could put some sort of basic text in there to say, please insert the name of the production here. Just as a guide, as a prompt, and then we can even put in a default value that would already be there when we started. So let's have a look at how these work then. So the first one I'm going to do is called drawing title. So I'm just going to call this drawing title, and remember you can't put a space in that one. Prompt, then we're just going to put drawing title for now, but this could be please enter the name of your drawing, but we're just going to do that for now, and then we're going to leave the default as empty. We're going to make sure we're on area 8 still. Justification left is fine, and it's not annotative, so we can now click, and then we can insert this text attribute definition like so. Okay, let's just create some more then. Let's create another one for amendments. We're going to click OK, and we'll put that in here. Okay, I'm just going to speed this up again whilst I do all the others. For scale, I'm actually going to put in a default value, which is quite a useful thing to do. I'm just going to put 1 to 25 at a 0. And this is quite a useful way of doing it, because if you get a drawing that is on A4, it's clearly not at 1 to 25 because the scale says so. For date, we're also going to create one that's slightly different. We're going to create a tag that's called date, prompt that also says date, and we're going to put in a default value, but this time we're going to let AutoCAD fill in the box automatically. There's quite a few different categories that AutoCAD can do for us automatically, as you can see here, but we want the date, so we're going to click on date and time for the field name. We're going to make sure we're on date, and then we're going to go over to this examples list and find the format that we quite like. That one's absolutely fine. That looks quite good. Click OK, and you can see that that's now entered that in, and that will change automatically. So if I use this tomorrow, it will automatically have tomorrow's date in there. Click OK, and then we can insert that as normal. Okay, I've got a couple more to do. Okay, great. Now I'm not going to fill in all of these for now. We're just going to leave those just to speed up this whole process. But you can see that this is how you create attribute definitions. Okay, let's give it a try. So we're going to go and save the block, and we're going to close the block editor. Let's have a go at inserting it for now into the model space. So we're going to go over to the insert button on the insert tab, and there's our title block. You can see that I now have that picked up as a base point on the bottom right hand corner, and when I go to insert it, I get a dialog box that allows me to fill in all of these attribute definitions. So I'll just speed this up again whilst I put in some arbitrary stuff here. Okay, and we can click OK, and you can see that all of those text fields have been entered in there automatically. Don't worry about this grey box behind the date. That just shows that it's an automatic text field and won't print out when we come to use it in a layout. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to open up the block editor again. So I'm going to select the block, right click and go to block editor, and we're going to create a dynamic border. And what that means is that we're going to create a rectangle that we can then manipulate in real time when we use the block to stretch out the rectangle to create a page border. So we're going to draw a rectangle here. So we're going to go to the Home tab and use the rectangle tool. And it doesn't matter what size the rectangle is as long as it's slightly larger than the actual title block that we've drawn. So somewhere there would be quite good. We're going to select that and make sure that is set to be a 0.5, so it's slightly thicker. And we now need to insert some parameters and actions. So you need to make sure that you've got the authoring palette here. And if you haven't, you can get it by clicking on the block editor tab and switching on the authoring palette here. Sometimes on Lipa computers these don't show up, these don't load up properly, but fear not, there's also the replication on this drop down menu here for the parameters and here for the actions. So you can choose which one you want to use, but they both do the same. So with dynamic tools, pretty much every parameter requires an action. They go in pairs. So if I put in a linear parameter, I'm going to draw it from the right to the left here, and then click up. And you can see it looks very similar to a dimension, except it's not. It's a dynamic dimension. So it hasn't actually got a value here. We can set the value by using these grips in real time and stretching it out. So we don't need to stretch this rectangle border out to the right ever, because that will be up against our page. So we can actually get rid of one of these grips. We're going to click on it, right click, and set the grip display to 1. And that is the reason why I drew it from right to left, because it always gets rid of the grip that you drew first. So for this one, we never want to stretch this out down, so we're going to start at the bottom and click up, so that when we get rid of the grip, we get rid of the bottom one. And we're left with two grips, one on top of the other. Okay, you can see that we've got a yellow exclamation symbol here, and that means that we've got a parameter, but it doesn't know what to do yet. It's got no action, so we need to give it one. So we're going to click on the Actions tab, and we're going to use the Stretch tool. And all we're going to do really is follow what it says. So it says select the parameter, so we're going to click on distance 1, and then it says select a grip. Now we've only got one grip, you can see we deleted that one, so it's got to be over here. And it puts a red cross to tell us where to click, so we just click over here. So now what we've done is associated distance 1 with this grip, and then it says, okay, what do you want to stretch? When you move this arrow on this distance left and right, which bit do you want to stretch? Well, we want to stretch out that part, i.e. this rectangle. So that's the portion of the drawing we want to stretch, and the next click is, well, what do we want to stretch in there? And we click the rectangle and press enter. And that is it. You can see the exclamation mark has gone, and in its place we've got an action, which is a stretch action. Okay, let's do that one more time then. So this time we're going to be distance 2. We want to use that grip on distance 2. When we go up and down, we want to stretch out that part of the drawing, and I want to stretch that rectangle only. Okay, let's give that a go then. So we can go to the test block function here, and that just puts us into a little prototype sort of demo mode, and we can just test it. And you can see that this looks quite normal at this point, but when we select our block, the grip shows up and we can click on there and we can stretch out this rectangle and place it anywhere we like. That works okay, but you can see that now I've moved that out, what's actually happened is that the grips on the distance 1 and distance 2 have stayed where they were. They haven't moved into that corner along with that stretch. That was the original distance that I put in. So what we need to do really is move these grips when we actually stretch this out. Otherwise, we're always going to have 2 grips now to use to change this further. So let's have a go at that. We're going to close the test block and we're going to use another action, and we're going to use a move action. And what we're going to need to do is we need to say that when we do parameter distance 1, that grip, I want it to move in relation to distance 2, and press enter. So what we're saying is distance 1's grip move up and down when we move along the distance and stretch it. Okay, so then let's go the other way. Move distance 2's grip in relation to distance 1 and press enter. And you can now see we've got 2 actions here. We've got a stretch and now we've got a move as well. If you ever wanted to edit any of those, you can right click on these and you can redo or modify the selection set. You can rename it, or you can just delete it and start again. Okay, let's give that a go then. So we're going to go test block, and this time when we select our block, we're going to stretch this out as if it was going to go around the page. And yes, you can see that both of those grips now have actually moved. It only shows one because one is on top of the other, but that's brilliant. Okay, but that means that we can now stretch this out. We could actually stretch this in and go really small. You could actually put a minimum value on this stretch command so that it would never go past a certain position. And you could do that by setting it in the properties. But let's leave that for now. I'm going to close the block editor and save the changes.